Okay, guys, welcome again to the class. Today, we will be finishing the current unit with this lesson. We'll be taking 2 days to talk about makeup. And why talk about makeup? Because, well, makeup is very important for an actor, right? Recreate the character that they are going to inhabit. Usually, when we talk about makeup, people think in lipstick, people think in foundation, people think in eyeshadow, people think in things like that. And makeup is used to alter the appearance of a person, hopefully make them look better, right? But makeup has many, many more uses in theater and cinematography. And when we talk about makeup, I also refer to the hair, not just to makeup, because they are key elements in the overall design of film productions. And they help create a look for the characters that will allow us to know what social class they might belong to, what time period, even if they belong to another world. The whole idea is to create the desired illusion that what we're seeing is real, even though it's all make believe. Makeup and hair designers are the people that are responsible for the design, the application, and continuity and care of makeup and hair, not only through pre-production when they design it, but through principal photography, which is the moment where these makeups and hair designs are applied and shot. The work that is involved in makeup can go from creating a contemporary look, or in other words, the latest in style and fashion, to recreating a particular historical period, design and style, and transform the actor's physical appearance that way. So, makeup will help the actor or the actress look like they belong to this world that they are inhabiting in the movie. In addition to makeup, we have makeup and hair effects, and they include the design and application of wigs, like you're seeing here in the case of the actress, hair pieces, hair extensions, facial hair, which is beard. Sometimes you see actors with a beard and that beard is not real. Ball caps, sometimes you see actors that seem to be bald and they're not really bald. Tattoos, body paint, and there's also a type of makeup effect that is known as medical effects. Medical effects refers to when you see someone with a cut or a scar or a bullet wound or a burn or a bruise or blood or any physical symptom of a disease. You see that in many movies, like when people have accidents, when you have a movie about a pandemic, when you have the aftermath of a violent event in a movie where people are hurt. Those are medical effects. Then you also have aging and death effects. These are a little bit harder to do convincingly, especially aging is very, very hard to do. Probably the hardest thing to do. So these are all the responsibility of the makeup and the hair departments. You have any question, guys?
No.
Okay. Makeup and hair designers are usually employed in pre-production because in pre-production is where you have to make the design. And the makeup design usually has to match the costume and the color palette of the movie and all those things. So that requires preparation. Anything that is preparation has to happen during pre-production. But then we have the execution during production or principal photography. The people that work on makeup and hair are freelancers. What that means is that they are hired by the studio while the film is in production. They are not employees of the studio when the movie is not happening. The hours can be long and the job can involve long periods working away from home. There's a video here that is a fantastic video about how makeup can transform people and how makeup has evolved through the years. Makeup has not always been the same. Let's give you a little background, a little history of makeup. As you know, when they started making movies, since films are a narrative format. They are a way of telling stories in a dramatic way. They copied many elements from the theater. So many people that were actors and actresses on the stage ended up in front of a camera. The same thing that they would be doing in front of an audience, now they were doing in front of a camera. So film studios were looking into all these stage techniques to make their movies. One of the things that they brought over was makeup. The problem with theatrical makeup when you're making a movie is that they can be quite different. For example, in movies, we have something called a close up, right? You know, the camera, remember, is going to be the surrogate for the audience's eyes. What you see in a movie is what is seen through a camera. But when you're sitting watching a play, if you're sitting in a theater, you might be several hundred feet from the stage, and your view is of the entire play is going to be from that distance. You will not have the benefit of a close up. So that means that when you're applying makeup in the stage, the person that is sitting way back in the theater has to be able to see that makeup. That's why makeup for the theater is quite exaggerated. But then when you use that in a movie and you have things like close up, they look bad because they look fake. So there are some philosophical differences between the way we approach makeup on a stage and we approach makeup in a movie. In addition to that, the early type of celluloid film stock that was used, that was known as orthochromatic, was a type of film stock that was very sensitive to the blue end of the spectrum. And anything that was red registered as black, and they made people look like clowns. They had to like rethink the way they were going to be doing makeup for movies because people look like clowns basically. Not only that, the makeup was so heavy, and the lights that were being used in studio were incandescent light, not LED lights like we have today that are cool. An incandescent light is basically like being in an oven. So you have that waxy heavy makeup, and on top of that greasy makeup, and on top of that, you're putting those lights on your face all the time, and it made actors very, very, very uncomfortable. So they had to rethink the way they did makeup in movies. And it was in the mid 1910s that we saw some changes happening. Up to that moment, actors were responsible for applying their own makeup. There were not makeup people working um, like specialists in applying makeup to their actors. The actors did it themselves. And you can imagine how that makeup looked. Okay, it's not the same thing to put makeup on yourself to have someone else apply the makeup on you. They started making refinements and making changes and changing their understanding of makeup. And during that time, two names are going to stand out in Hollywood as the guys that laid down the foundation for modern makeup and makeup effects. Those persons were Max Factor. Have you ever heard of Max Factor? Especially the ladies. Ladies, have you ever heard of Max Factor?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't.
That's probably because you don't use makeup. But maybe your mommy does, you know, your grandma or your aunt, because you know there are many brand names like Maybelline and many other. I don't use makeup, right? But I live with women. I've lived with women all my life, and well, I know I've seen their makeup, right? And one of the brand names that are that's very famous is Max Factor. So Max Factor makeup comes from this guy from Max Factor. The other name that pops out is George Westmore. This guy that you see here was George Westmore, and he began what is a dynasty of a very famous makeup effects artists that still to this day, both of them started as wig makers, and they both recognized the difference between stage and screen, makeup as being a lightness of touch. It's very important that you remember this because this is going to pop up in the test. Their philosophy was don't go heavy. If you're doing makeup for a movie, use a lightness of touch. In other words, less is better, less is more. So it can look more natural and not look fake. They both invented enduring cosmetic and makeup tricks for cinema, and both claim to have invented the false eyelashes. Who really did? Well, I don't know, but they both said that they invented fake eyelashes. So whoever it was, I'm sure that many women around the world love them for it. We cannot talk about makeup effects without talking about this guy. I mean, you're seeing that picture. That's not what he really looked like, right? This is actor Lon Chaney. He was known as the man with a thousand faces. And one of the reasons why he became very famous was because of the way he transformed himself. Um, he began as a theater actor, but he transitioned very successfully to the screen. And he devised and applied his own makeup. And of course, I can only imagine the amount of hours that it took for him to do so back in that time. This picture that you're seeing here is Lon Chaney in The Phantom of the Opera. Have you heard of The Phantom of the Opera?
I have.
You have, okay. And
Yeah.
also, have you heard of Quasimodo, also known as the Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Well, he's the guy that played both roles back way in the 1920s. He was the original actor to play those roles. And if you look at them, they are brilliant and they still are the standard for those characters. And what he did to his body was incredible. The way he twisted and strapped his limbs into unnatural and painful positions, and the amount of body padding that he wore, and the way that he distorted his eyes and his nose and his mouth with tape to get the desired look are legendary. Sadly, because of the things that he did to his body, that damaged his health, and he died in 1930 of pneumonia while filming a movie. But this guy, there's a video here. You can click on it. No, you must click on it, right? You have to see it. So you can see the different roles. You can see why they called Lon Chaney the man with a thousand faces. And his legacy endures to this day. So when we talk about makeup effects, that's the first name that pops up. Guys, it's also important that you look at the video because there are some photographs there that will appear in the test. One of the things that you will see in the test is that I'm going to put some pictures and I'm going to ask you what makeup artist is responsible for this famous makeup that you see here. So that's the importance of watching the video. Okay, so watch the video later on. Another step forward in makeup effects has to do with the universal monsters. In the 1920s, you know that different studios, they had like niche genres. You know that studios we discussed last semester, they specialize in particular film genres. It's not like today, you know, you can have any film studio make any kind of movie. It's not like they specialize. Well, you have only a few that specialize, right? Like Blumhouse and A24 and such. But basically, these big studios like Sony, like Disney, like 20th Century Fox, like Universal, like Paramount, like Columbia, uh, they can make comedies, they can do action movies, they can do fantasy, they can do horror, they can do any genre. They can do a drama. But back in the day, each studio had like their own niche, like their own. They specialized in a particular genre. And Universal, one of the things that they uh, were famous for doing was horror. And they were very successful during the 1920s when featuring their monsters and featuring the macabre. But the quantum leap came in the 1930s with this guy that you're seeing there. That is Jack Pierce. He was a fantastic makeup artist. And he's the guy responsible for the development of the look of what is known as the Universal monsters, probably the most famous monsters in film history. When I talk about the Universal monster, I'm talking about Frankenstein, as you're seeing him here, Dracula, the Mummy, the Bride, the Wolfman, the Creature of the Black Lagoon, and others. He created the look of those monsters. Let me show you some of them. And there you have the Wolfman, the Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Bride, and Frankenstein's monster. Um, this guy here, remember that I was talking about a guy called Lon Chaney, guys.
Yes, yes.
So this guy is the son of Lon Chaney. This is Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney Jr. played the role of the Wolfman. But I want to remind you, they're not the same person. The person that we call Lon Chaney, the man of a thousand faces, and Lon Chaney Jr., the guy that played the Universal Studios Wolfman, were not the same person. This one is the son. And the Creature of the Black Lagoon was the last of the Universal monsters. He was the very last one. As you can see, it's an entire bodysuit that was created here. So they were very popular. And modern makeup artists, they tried to figure out how Jack Pierce created these monsters. But whatever plans or paperwork he did for the designs do not exist. We don't know how exactly he created these makeups. They were not safe for future generations. People might guess how they were done, but they left no paperwork. Okay, this look of Frankenstein. Now there are many Frankenstein movies, and there are many different looks, but this one continues being the most famous, the most popular one by far. Another jump forward came in the 1960s with John Chambers. John Chambers is the guy that is responsible for the creation of Mr. Spock's ears from Star Trek. And back in 1968, he was shooting a movie called The Planet of the Apes. And for these apes to look realistic, they had to create a new material, which is what John Chambers did. He came up with something called foam latex, which was applied here in this area, in the mouth area, because in order for these people to look realistic, this area had to be flexible. Because you know that the human mouth or the mouth of any animal is very flexible. So they had to create this with a material that was not usually used, which is hard clay. It would have looked super fake. So this is one of the most famous makeups ever done, and it's a leap forward in makeup effects. It's a landmark work. Another name that sticks out is Dick Smith. Dick Smith is considered by many the greatest makeup effects artist of all time. And he was also famous for the use of foam latex. And probably he's the most famous in making people look older and aging people. This is from a movie called The Hunger from 1983. That's famous actor and singer David Bowie. In the movie, he was a vampire, right? And he looked like he was 30 years old. But then here we have another scene in the movie where they make him look like he's 80. And you see how fantastic that looks, right? What do you think, guys? Does it look great?
Se ve, se ve brutal.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah, it looks
literal.
yeah, that's the same actor, guys. We call the 1980s the golden age of special effects makeup because, I mean, they went crazy, they went bonkers. If you have not seen these 80 movies, you have not seen what makeup effects are capable of doing. For example, Rick Baker, my favorite makeup artist of all time, won his first Oscar with An American Werewolf in London. That has a transformation that is just incredible. Another famous makeup artist from that time is Rob Bottin for his work on what I think is the holy grail of makeup effects, The Thing. Has anybody seen The Thing?
No.
No.
That's just crazy. The makeup effects in that movie are just incredible. You would not believe it. And we also have Tom Savini, was the guy that is responsible for the look of the modern zombie. You see, what zombies look like today is not the way they always look like, okay? Like rotting flesh and all that. That was Tom Savini. And Tom Savini became famous for his zombies in the Dawn of the Dead. And he's the guy that made studios want to increase their budget for makeup. First, they gave like very little money, but when they saw how impressive the makeup could be and how much value they could add to a movie, they decided to increase the budget for makeup. And many 80s horror movies, like an example would be Friday the 13th, um, include work done by Tom Savini. So all these names are very famous and popular names in the world of makeup effects. Here's an example of good makeup from a movie called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Here we have Brad Pitt, what he looked like in 2008, and that's what he looked like in the movie. If you have not seen that movie, it's an incredible movie about a man that is born old and dies young. If you want to see what that means, then check out the movie. Um, this is actress Rebecca Roman Stamos. Um, she was the actress that played Mystique in the original X-Men. And that's what she looked like when she was shooting the movie. And that's what she looked like when she had the makeup applied to her. This is actor Heath Ledger. That's what he looked like before becoming the Joker in 2008's The Dark Knight. Here is a more recent makeup from The Mandalorian. That is Rosario Dawson as Ashoka Tano. This came out a couple of months ago. And this is the alien spy from Men in Black from 1997. Have you seen Men in Black or Mandalorian?
I have seen Men in Black, pero Mandalorian no.
It's on Disney Plus, man. You should check it out. Okay, here's an incredible video of a show that we like very much called Face Off. And it's basically a competition that showcases very talented makeup artists in a competition to win $100,000 and a car. There's an episode that I link here so you can see how awesome makeup can be. You can see the process from conceptualization to application. It's just incredible how talented these people are and how fun makeup can be. So you need to check this out. This is a basic makeup kit. What you should have if you're making your makeup kit. This is similar to what we have in our classroom. And here's a list of famous makeup giants. I already mentioned George Westmore. I mentioned Jack Pierce. I also mentioned Dick Smith, Rick Baker, Stan Winston, Rob Bottin, and V. Neal. V. Neal, she is one of the judges in the show that I just told you about in Face Off. So there's a reshoot, guys, that you need to complete and upload. Please do this as soon as possible and upload it. Would you have any question, guys?
No.
No.